I hate crime. The guy who walked into my office was tall, wide, well-dressed, with authority written all over him.
My name's Louis Britt. I'm a criminal lawyer.
I've heard of you. Sit down.
Thank you, Mr. Kent.
Something I can do for you?
For my client, Peter Reynolds.
Oh, the fellow being held for murder.
Yes. I saw Peter in his cell only a few minutes ago. He, instructed me to hire you.
What am I supposed to do?
He thinks you might be able to find some evidence that will clear him.
But the cops have an open and shut case against him.
No one knows that better than I.
Do you think he's guilty?
I would rather not answer that question.
I thought a barrister had to be sure of his client's innocence.
Peter Reynolds is my friend. He tells me he's innocent, so I assume that he is.
But you don't really think he is?
Please. I came here because of my client's instructions. Will you accept the case, or shall I tell him that you refuse?
Suppose I don't get any evidence.
Then you don't get any.
Do I still get paid?
I have a check here for £100. All it requires is my signature.
I let him sign. Then he gave me his card.
In the event that you do find some evidence.
Uh-huh. Thanks, Mr. Britt.
Thank you.
He left. Then I went through the newspapers of the past week. The condensation I got was this. Peter Reynolds was a gambler, owned a few racehorses, was suspected of controlling a nationwide football pool. Illegal, of course. A guy named Bill Hatfield had been his partner. Hatfield had been shot to death in his city office. A witness, Jerry Blaine, said he heard the shot as he walked down the hall. He saw Reynolds leave the office quickly. When the cops came, they found Hatfield's body and, near it, a gun that was later traced to Reynolds. Reynolds had an alibi. He had been talking business with two men. They were Sidney Tallis and Harry Werner, both gamblers. However, when the cops questioned them, they said they hadn't seen Reynolds that day. So he was arrested and held for murder. I figured Tallis and Werner were the two best guys to see. I pulled a few strings at headquarters, got their addresses, and went calling.
Here. Hey, do you have to knock so loud?
I want to see Harry Werner.
Huh. Did you stop to think that he might not be in?
You're the landlady here?
Yeah. And what's it to you?
I'm a detective. I want to talk to Werner.
You don't look like no detective to me.
Well, don't let my shoes fool you. We all haven't got flat feet.
No. And they don't all talk with American accents, neither.
My name's Larry Kent. I'm an American private detective.
Ah. Oh, well, I'll tell Harry you called when he comes in.
I think he's in there now.
If he was, he'd have opened the door long ago. He's probably down at the pub.
Then why did he leave the key in the lock on the other side of the door, huh?
He might have forgot about it.
Well, if he did, then the door is open.
Oh! Hey, here now, you can't just go in there and... Oh, good heavens.
Harry Werner was on the floor. The knife was in his back. Call the cops.
Well, where are you going?
To see if the other guy's alive. Sidney Tallis, the other fella who'd busted Reynolds' alibi, lived about a mile away. I didn't waste too much time pressing his door buzzer. When he didn't answer on the second push, I tried the door. He wasn't in the living room. Wasn't in the bathroom. I went into the kitchen. Well, I couldn't say I wasn't getting variety. Harry Werner had been stabbed. With Sidney Tallis, the killer had used an electric iron. I reported this one to the cops. Later, I had a talk with Inspector Daniels. He, of course, had a theory.
Revenge?
How do you work that out?
It's obvious. Reynolds has a lot of friends.
So?
So, when Werner and Tallis didn't support his alibi, they were killed.
Nope. No, it doesn't add up.
And why not?
If he had friends who do that, wouldn't they have fixed an alibi for him in the first place?
There may not have been time to establish a good alibi.
You mean Reynolds may have killed his partner in a fit of passion, huh?
Something like that.
Then why did he say he'd been with Werner and Tallis?
Well, he had to say something.
Was he very friendly with Werner and Tallis?
He knew them.
Uh-huh. Why didn't he pick someone he knew better?
Look, Kent, you could ask 1,000 questions. So could I. But the fact remains he had an alibi that we broke, and we have a witness who saw him leave his partner's office only a few seconds after the shot was fired.
Yeah, you also have his gun.
Yes.
That could have been stolen. Another thing. A man doesn't shoot a guy, then drop his gun on the floor.
Kent, I'm not here to question why things happen the way they do. My job is to gather the facts, put them together, add them up, and get my answer.
Maybe you added wrong.
Maybe you can show me where I went wrong.
Maybe I can. So long, sweetheart. Through a newspaper friend, a crime reporter, I got the address of the Crown's witness, Jerry Blaine. But Jerry wasn't home. I did some footwork, asked some questions, and finally located Jerry in a pub. His hands were wrapped around a double rum. I introduced myself.
What do you want with me?
I'd like to talk about that Hatfield murder.
I told all I knew at the inquest.
Yeah, but I wasn't there. So there are a couple of things I'd like to know.
I don't have to talk in that private eye.
Who paid you?
Nobody paid me.
Why are you so scared, Jerry?
I ain't scared. I got nothing to be scared of.
You just spilled half that drink.
Look, get out of here, will you? Get away from me.
I'll help you, Jerry. I'll give you protection.
You get out of here, I'll yell cop. And I'll yell good and loud.
I got. The guy was scared. I figured I'd tail him when he left the pub. But when the bar closed, Jerry didn't come out. I went down a little lane alongside and discovered why. There was a back entrance. I wasted an hour trying to locate him at his apartment around town. Then I drove out to Watson's Bay. That's where Reynolds lived. I wanted to have a talk with his wife.
Yes.
Her name was Ramona. She was tall, willowy, almost beautiful, if you liked them with high cheekbones and a narrow silhouette. I introduced myself.
Louis Britt told me about you, Mr. Kent.
He seems to think your husband is guilty.
I know.
Do you?
No.
Even with all the evidence piled against him?
He says he's innocent. So, I believe it.
So do I.
What?
Werner and Tallis were killed a few hours ago.
Killed?
Murdered.
Murdered?
I spoke to Jerry Blaine, the witness who claimed he saw your husband leave Hatfield's office. Blaine was scared. Really scared.
Then you think that he...
Somebody paid him to give evidence.
But Werner and Tallis...
My idea is that your husband was with Werner and Tallis. Then somebody either threatened or paid them to explode his alibi.
The same one who killed them.
Yeah.
What are you going to do, Mr. Kent?
Look for Blaine. Make him tell the truth.
Perhaps the police...
Not yet, no. I'll let you know before I call them.
Well, do be careful.
I said yeah, then good night, and left. I went to Blaine's place, let myself in with my skeleton keys, and waited. At 2 a.m, I gave it up and drove to my apartment. It happened just as I opened my front door.
Don't try anything.
He'd come from the shadows at the end of the hallway. He stood behind me. His gun was pressed against my backbone.
Open the door.
Sure.
Put on the light. Take 3 steps.
You're the boss?
Now.
Oh. He hit me across the back of the neck with an expert rabbit killer. I went numb down to my toes. I hit the carpet.
I'll just take your gun.
I felt him pull the .38 out of my shoulder holster. Then I got the toe of his shoe in the ribs.
This is all for your education, Kent. A warning to stay off the Hatfield case. I hope you learned something from it.
About an hour after my heavy-footed friend left, I was able to crawl into the bathroom. I turned on a hot shower, struggled out of my clothes by degrees, then I let the hot water run over my body. After that, I had a long belt out of the bottle in my cupboard and fell into bed. In the morning, I felt like anything but a human being. But I shaved, dressed, went to the gym, got into a sweat box, and then had a muscle man massage the heck out of me. By 12 o'clock, I was able to navigate. I drove to Blaine's apartment. Out. I rang the city office of Britt, Reynolds' lawyer. The girl said he wouldn't be in all day, so I went out to Reynolds' place.
Yes?
The girl who opened the door had short brown hair, big brown eyes, a cute little nose, and dimples. She wasn't very tall, just a sweet little package wrapped up very nicely in a sweater. I asked her if Mrs. Reynolds was in.
No, was she expecting you?
Well, I'd like to see her. My name's Larry Kent.
How do you do? I'm Noel Reynolds.
Reynolds? Peter Reynolds' sister?
Yes.
I see. Look, I'm a private investigator. I'm working for your brother.
Oh, I didn't know. Please come in, Mr. Kent.
When are you expecting your sister-in-law back?
Well, I'm not sure. She's having lunch with Mr. Britt, my brother's barrister.
Uh-huh. How long have you been here?
Oh, I came down from Brisbane only last night. There's nothing I can do to help my brother, but, well, I want to be near him.
Sure. So your sister-in-law didn't mention me, huh?
No.
Did she talk about the murder at all?
Not very much, but she did say there might be some new evidence. Do you know anything about that?
I told her about Jerry Blaine and the rest of it, including my own ideas. Her big brown eyes got even bigger. She grabbed my arm.
Are you sure, Mr. Kent?
Uh-huh. Blaine was paid to give that story at the inquest. So are the other two.
But they were killed. The same thing might happen to Blaine.
There's a possibility, yeah.
Well, if you told the police now, they'd look for him.
They'd laugh at me. Even if they didn't and they found Blaine, he'd probably freeze up. What I have to do is to get him on my own.
Is there any way I can help?
I don't think so. But you can tell your sister-in-law that I'm still looking for Blaine. So long.
Goodbye.
I spent all afternoon going from one city dive to another. I even hired a few underworld bloodhounds. But if Blaine was still around, he was laying low. Very low. Every now and then I phoned Britt's home number. Finally, I got him.
What is it, Mr. Kent?
I want to see you right away.
Is it important?
Very. I'll be out there in a few minutes. Britt lived just across the bridge. He opened the door of his bachelor apartment, pointed to a chair, and I sat down.
Well, Mr. Kent?
I guess Mrs. Reynolds told you about Blaine, huh?
Yes. So you think he committed perjury, eh?
Uh-huh.
But you can't find him?
No.
Then we have no real evidence.
We've got the murders of the other two witnesses.
Oh, that doesn't help us in the least. Their statements were taken down at the inquest and will be resubmitted by the Crown at Peter's trial.
Dead man's evidence, huh?
Exactly.
What if Jerry Blaine is murdered? Will his evidence still stand? Can't we tell them about the beating I took?
Well, as far as the law is concerned, that would mean nothing either. What we need, Mr. Kent, is new evidence that will contradict all the other evidence. Get me that and I'll have Peter Reynolds acquitted.
I said I would. Then I left. I wanted to find Blaine. I'd make him talk. But he was still among the missing. In the wee hours of the morning, I went home, put on my pajamas, and lighted a final cigarette. My gun was on the table. I grabbed it, went to the door, jerked it open. Standing there, shaking all over, was Jerry Blaine. I pulled him in.
Hey, give me a drink. Give me a drink, will you?
Do you talk?
After I get a drink.
I half filled a glass. He was shaking so much that I had to hold the glass as he swallowed.
Oh, I needed that.
Now start.
Yeah. Look, I didn't see Reynolds leaving that office.
Who paid you to say you did?
Joe Kruger.
Kruger?
Yeah, he's a killer. Look, the cops want him for a couple of murders already, so he doesn't care how many he has to pop off.
Describe him.
Well, he's short and heavy.
Speaks in a whisper?
Yeah, that's him.
The same guy who beat me up. Who was he working for?
I don't know.
You said you came to talk.
I tell you, I don't know. He came to me, said I had to give that evidence. He said he'd kill me if I didn't.
Did he pay you?
Oh, a couple of $100, but it wasn't the money, honest.
Nah, it never is. Why did you make up your mind to come here?
That talk we had. You said you'd give me protection, didn't you? The other two, they were killed. Look, I'll be next.
I'll give you protection, all right. We're going down to headquarters.
But perjury. They'll get me for perjury.
No, there's a way out. You gave evidence under a threat. Wait till I get dressed.
Okay. Give me another drink, will you?
I let him help himself to my whiskey while I got dressed. Then we left the apartment together. The hallway was dark. Just before we reached the door, Blaine stumbled. I grabbed him. Then I felt the gun in my back.
Freeze. Kruger.
Yeah. I was watching the house, Jerry. You shouldn't have come.
The gun was pressing hard against my back. I waited for the explosion. Instead, I got it in the neck again. I went down against the wall. Jerry Blaine took the slug in his stomach. The next one was for me, but the rabbit killer hadn't paralyzed me this time. I saw Kruger's leg and pulled. The slug plowed into the wall, and he went down with me. I grabbed blindly, got his wrist. He lost. I ran. I didn't want to talk to the cops, not just then. I went to a payphone, rang Britt's place. No answer. I couldn't get my car, so I took a taxi out to his apartment, let myself in with skeleton keys. He wasn't there. I got another taxi, went out to Watson's Bay.
Mr. Kent?
Is Britt here?
Why, no. What happened to you?
I told her. I told her everything.
Oh, then this Kruger, he arranged it all.
He was doing it for somebody else.
Oh? Who?
Britt.
Britt?
He faked the case against your husband, then had Kruger kill off the witnesses.
Oh, but Mr. Kent, why?
Maybe he was horning in on your husband's business.
Oh, no, I can't believe it.
I found out for sure tonight. When Kruger tried to scare me off the case by beating me up, I told no one. But tonight, I mentioned the beating to Britt. It didn't surprise him in the least.
But you surprised me, Mr. Kent. Don't move.
Well...
You know, I thought you'd be dead by now. Take his gun, Ramona.
Lift up your arms, Mr. Kent.
The both of you?
Surprised?
Yeah. Huh. I thought this was one dame with a little class. Instead, she's just like any dirty
Oh, yes, she has class, all right. Too much for Peter Reynolds. And you were wrong. I don't want his business. Just his wife and the money he'll leave her.
The money he'll leave us, Louis.
Yes, my dear. I hope your daughter-in-law's asleep.
She is. I looked in just before Mr. Kent arrived.
Then let's all be quiet, shall we? We wouldn't want to awaken her, would we?
Where are you taking me?
Out to the car. Come on.
Hit his gun, Mr. Kent.
No, she has a gun.
Britt turned to take care of Noel. I let him have it in the kidney. As he doubled over, my knee came up. The shot came from Ramona. Before she could fire again, I hit her with a flying tackle. She fought like a wildcat, trying to claw my eyes out. I got one hand free, let her have it. I got up, pocketed both guns, went over to Noel. She stood there swaying. I looked at her right hand. The gun was a black comb. She fainted. I caught her, carried her over to the couch, bundled up our two friends, and called the cops. When I got back to Noel, her big brown eyes were opening. She didn't get corny and say, "Where am I?" Just looked up at me. Big brown eyes, cute little nose, dimples, and she'd saved my life. There was only one thing I could do.
Oh, dear.
The rest of the story? Well, Jerry Blaine lived for 10 minutes after the cops reached him, long enough to make a statement. Then later, Ramona talked. So Peter Reynolds walked out of jail and his wife and Britt went in. Me? I got a bonus from Reynolds, an apology from Inspector Daniels, and...
Oh, Larry.
I got... no. Good night.